The thought experiment of Buridan's ass is a classic philosophical conundrum that starkly illustrates the challenge of decision-making under conditions of perfect equilibrium. Though popularly attributed to the 14th century philosopher Jean Buridan, whose moral determinism it satirizes, the paradox itself dates back to antiquity. It posits a hypothetical scenario where a perfectly rational ass, donkey, driven only by reason, is placed exactly equidistant between two equally attractive and desirable options, typically two identical bales of hay. The inevitable and paradoxical conclusion is that the ass, finding no rational basis to choose one over the other, would remain paralyzed by indecision and consequently starve to death. The enduring power of this paradox lies in its confrontation with the nature of free will and rationality. If an agent's will is strictly determined by the strongest motive, and if two motives are precisely balanced, the will is paralyzed. The ass is not stupid. It is too rational. It perfectly executes the rule. Choose the better option. Because neither bale is demonstrably better, it cannot act. The paradox suggests that a purely rational agent operating under strict determinism would be unable to break this deadlock, implying a failure of the rationalist model of choice. The most common philosophical objection to the paradox is that it misrepresents reality. Critics argue that an agent, whether human or animal, does not need a superior reason to act. In real life, an agent would simply introduce an element of arbitrary choice to break the equilibrium. This tiebreaker could be an external factor, such as a slight difference in air currents or scent, or an internal non-rational element of the will itself, a capacity often seen as a defense of genuine free will. The arbitrary selection of one option, say by flipping a coin or simply going left, is in itself a profoundly rational act, as the cost of starvation far outweighs the minuscule preference for one identical bale over the other. Beyond the realm of philosophy, the dilemma of Buridan's ass finds practical echoes in both technology and everyday life. In computer science and electrical engineering, the concept is formalized as Buridan's principle. This principle addresses metastability in digital circuits, a state where a circuit, attempting to decide between two inputs arriving simultaneously, gets stuck in an intermediate undefined state. Engineers design systems to minimize the time spent in this uncertain state because, theoretically, a circuit could remain metastable indefinitely, thereby failing to function. In our own lives, we frequently face Buridan's moments, choosing between two virtually identical job offers, picking one of two perfectly good restaurants, or selecting a lane in slow traffic. While we rarely starve, the mental cost of prolonged indecision or analysis paralysis is real. Our ability to overcome these deadlocks, often by introducing a seemingly arbitrary bias or heuristics, is what prevents us from being like the unfortunate ass. We realize that action, even arbitrary action, is preferable to inaction when the opportunity cost of delay is high. In conclusion, Buridan's ass is not a demonstration that rational decision-makers will starve. It is a profound lesson on the limitations of a purely rational, deterministic model of action. It ultimately affirms the need for an extra-rational mechanism, whether it is a random impulse, a pre-existing bias, or the sheer pragmatic will to survive, to effectively navigate a world that is rarely symmetrical, and where the avoidance of paralysis is, paradoxically, the most rational course of all.